Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. And today, I'm going to be taking a look, if I get it in the right place, a look at the H110i GT. Now this is kind of an upgraded version of the H110. H110 was the Acetec OEM'd 280mm all-in-one water cooling solution from Corsair. This is the Cool It variety, where essentially we've got the styling is something similar to what you would have been used to with the H100i. We've got the Link software in there as well, which means that we can monitor it, change fan profiles, and have lots more control over the unit in our system. It's got an entirely new look to it as well, and lots of wicked looking little features. And on the Corsair website at this present moment in time, because I've not had any retailer feedback about prices yet, Corsair are stating on there in GBP the price is going to be below £105. So it'll be interesting to see how it performs, and then also how the pricing ends up coming out as time progresses. But I'm going to bring you in now so that you can see what's in the box. I know a lot of you get funny about me talking about the box and doing like a box opening, but let's face it, some people do just like to see what's in the box on these things. So we've got the fitting guide and your quick start guide, and then you've got some warranty stuff. Then when we get inside, now this is literally brand new. I have not done anything with this yet. I'm making the video well ahead of time. So I'm going to try and take this all apart with you. So we'll do the main unit first. So let's have a look at this. Now don't forget, I've not even seen this yet, so even I'm quite excited. I'm trying to remember that I need to show you on the camera at the same time. But first things first is straight away the radiator feels very angular. Feels very square at the edges. It's not rounded off or anything. A lot of the time they can be quite curved and have little step downs on the end tanks and stuff. This feels all quite angular and actually quite nice. I really like the idea of this embellishment on the side with the logo on it. That's properly nice. Obviously you're only really going to have it I don't know why they've put it, the logo around that way and that way. I suppose it's in case you have it fitted on the bottom of your case, I suppose. How nice. Now this has just caught my eye as well. Look at that. It's like it's got a braid over it. It actually feels like there's a braid over the top of the hose. Can you see that? I want to say it's got like a carbon fibre effect, but it is just like a braided effect, like it's got braided hosing over it, like what you'd have on your power supply. That's properly nice. That is really, really nice. More the design from the side is come down onto the actual main unit itself, and I know this is an LED because I've seen pictures and stuff online already. This is a properly good looking unit. There's the Link adapter on the side there for when you stick all your cables and stuff in. You've got the fan cables, more Link cables. This is actually all fixed. Before you had to add all of these, and they're all in there fixed now. Luckily they are some very thin and easily hidden black cables, and on the end we've got the SATA, which is going to be the power. We've got two connectors here so far. Let me see. Yeah, if you pull the top off, there's a little like a sheath that goes over the top in case you don't want to use them, because obviously they're going to be getting powered all the time and you could short them. It's actually got the 4-pin fan headers, and obviously you can cover them up. There we go. And then you've got another one. Now this one I'm guessing is so that you can plug it in to monitor the pump speed, and you can get your motherboard to shut off if the pump was to go off. I tend to not use these because again they're like quite awkward to make tidy and stuff. And I normally just do it with like the Link software or something, and my rig's kind of set to shut down if it gets too hot anyway. So 240mm fans. Something that's critical with the 140mm fan radiators is the gap between the fans, because there's 15 and there is 20mm gaps. This is a 20mm gap, which is kind of it's the one that Corsair generally use the most. A lot of cases now will support 15 and 20mm gaps, but it is worth checking that. All of the Corsair cases, obviously, if they support the dual 140s, then they're going to support that fan spacing. Now, if we've got that, I'm properly impressed with those hoses. That's actually kind of set me back a little bit. Right, so the fans that we've got some of the Corsair. They are the SP140s. They're not LEDs or anything like that. They're not any of the ones with a change of size or anything like that. We've got a bag of screws, which are just our normal fittings. We've got the link cable, which goes from the USB into an internal USB, and then we have the fittings for your sockets, which, if I mutilate this cover, we've got the normal main one, which is your Intel, and then but you do still get the connections for those of you out there running an AMD socket, so you can still use those as well. Now we've got it all out. Okay, so we've got the old girl in there all fitted, and I will show you the Corsair logo, the RGBs, because you can change them in the Link software. I'll show you that just shortly, but I wanted to show you it in there to start off with. So I've obviously got it in a 2011 rig, which means I've not had to use the back plate. With this, I'm just going to turn the lights on in the room so that we can have a little bit more light in there, although I don't think it's made that much difference. You can see the USB here, which I've routed up underneath the heatsink. It was a bit of a pain to get it round the heatsink itself, but this isn't obviously something that's part of the Corsair's problem, for want of a better term, but I'm just showing you that if you really do want to make things super tidy, there is no excuse, because I've got these all in right around the edges of the heatsink. You can see it's all focused in there now. So you can make things ridiculously tidy. You just need to be prepared to spend a little bit of time doing it. The rig that we've got it in is our graphics card test system, which is a Rampage 4 Black Edition. We're still on the 4960X, because jumping up onto the 5960X would have skewed all of our graphs, but that's the rig that it's in there. And I'm going to be living with this over the coming months now, because this is now its home. It's not going to be going anywhere. I've used the standard fans in the roof, although after the review I will put the SP140 white edition fans in there, but for the sake of the review we've kept it with the kit that was in the box. One thing I will say is, while we're here, you can see the braid on this hose. It is so nice. It really is. It does make it look so much different from the normal rubber or just plastic hose. It's a really nice change. It's a nice progression. It's definitely the type of step forwards that we need to keep things fresh. In this rig though, even though we do have it in the 760T, I would say that these hoses do feel kind of long. I know they've done it so that it's going to fit into cases where the unit has to be up further, but I will say that they do feel a bit long to me. Obviously it's something that you can tuck down, but on narrower cases you may find that the hose ends up touching the windows. Really kind of depends on the rig specs and stuff that you're going to be going with though. Before you start going nuts about the model in the bottom, it's just in there for the lows. It will be going in my display cabinet, it's just that it turned up today. So we've got it in the roof. What I've also done is I've got the fans above so that they're pulling, and then if you have a look in the 760T, it does space it down just the perfect amount that you can see that Corsair logo. If I had done it in just a normal push configuration with the fans on the bottom as you would see it there, then the radiator would have been hidden. but it all went in there easy peasy. Like I said, just make sure that the 20mm spacing and the 140mm fans are going to fit in the case that you might want to use. Pretty much all the Corsair cases that are out there now support these anyway. But I do think that the embellishment on the side of that radiator is a very, very nice touch, because radiators are normally just quite bland, and even the dedicated radiator manufacturers are only just really starting to catch up with the fact that they can, you know, add a bit of bling on them, for want of a better term. And I think that's actually quite a nice, subtle thing there. And also, if you think about it, I reckon that would probably come off with a hairdryer. So if you wanted to paint it, you could also customize it as well. But it does obviously work really well with the front of the actual main CPU block there as well. It all ties in, you know, really nicely, and I really like that. So that's it in the rig itself. It's time to move on to the software. So this is the latest version of Link that's on the Corsair available on the Corsair website. I'm just going to go to the About. I'm running the 2.7.5361. It's literally the latest version that's available on the Corsair website at the moment. What we can see at the top here is the H110i GT pump. Now, with the other ones in the past, come on, there we go, open it up. You can see that there is actually a mode for the pump, and you can go between quiet mode and performance mode. Before this has really never done anything, but it will actually go up to about 2,800 RPM if you want it to. Noise wise, it didn't really hear a difference. You do have the H100, I'm not going to keep saying it, but you do have the RGB control here, and by changing these sliders you can change the colour of the RGB on the front of the CPU block. So with them all at the very top, that gives you a nice white. I will say though, this is just my little guide. If you move the red slider down ever so slightly away from the top, it gives you, it takes it away from, some people will say it's a pinky kind of hue, but I like to say the differences between like a warm white and a cool white. So if you move the red down ever so slightly, it lets there be a little bit more blue there, which makes, to my eyes at least, it purer white. You can obviously, if you just want to, you can, by dropping the sliders down right to the bottom, and you leave the red at the top, you get a red LED. And then running through the obvious is, if we were to put the green at the top, gives you just the green, so that gives you the green LED. And then again, if you move the blue to the top, you get the blue LED, and you can make your own colours up in between, because as you change the sliders, you can see the colour at the side here changing, and you can pretty much set it to whatever you want to match your rig. You can make yellow up if you want to. You know, you can do any possible thing that you want. Also, what you can do is, if you double click on the fans, you can then go into some settings, and there are some set settings. You've got quiet mode, which is what I will test in a moment, balance mode and performance mode. Now on the main OC3D website, we have actually tested all of these as well. The balance mode is a good kind of mixture between keeping it quiet and still having some good performance. Performance mode is very noisy, as they always are. Fans are on full speed. I would call that benchmark mode if it was me, or if you live somewhere insanely hot, or, and I don't want to play this in a bad light, but if you were deaf, because you would need to be. But you can set some custom curves up if you want. You can set fixed RPM or fixed percentage. You've got maximum speed there as well, and default mode. But you can see ours are in quiet mode, and they're ticking around the kind of 1000 RPM mark with the fans at the moment. Something else that we can see is here. You can see the you can see the temperature essentially of the unit itself. Okay, so just moving on to some testing. Now this isn't the test rig that we use for the main review, because we do have a set heatsink test system, but it's not quite as pretty as the graphics card test rig. So we've used the graphics card test rig for the video, but I will show you some graphs on the other rig. But just for the sake of testing in the video, we've got a 1.344 volts, 4960X, 4.4 gigahertz, and then we have our value, which is current temperature, mins and max over here, and we're going to run some OCCT. So we're going to run OCCT through. We've got it set into the quiet mode on the Link software so that we can monitor everything as well. You can see that the temperatures are ever so slightly just starting to eke up already because we've got the program running. I will come and show you midway through, and I'll show you the results at the end, and then we'll talk about the graphs as well. So we're just coming up to the 15-minute mark, which is halfway through our test. What we can see down here is we're in quiet mode, and we can see that we've got 70, 65, 61, 61, 70, 67, 72. So we've probably got an average there of about 68. Temperature in the room is 22 degrees as well, so you can work out your own delta temperatures there. We can also see that we've got the actual unit temp as being 38.3. Now what I do want to do is just quickly, I've obviously got it in the, if I click it, there we go, you can see it's the rig is lagging because we're testing, but we've got it on the quiet mode, and I'm just going to clip my microphone onto the rig itself and change the settings into performance mode on both the fans, and then into the high performance mode, just so that you can get a bit of an idea on the noise that it's going to make between the two. Obviously we are heavily stressing the CPU out, so if this was in game, you'd be like, for example, the performance mode, the balance mode would be a lot quieter, because it's not going to be raping your CPU as much as we would be at the moment. But it's just an indication for you of the volume differences between the two, and you know why I actually really like this quiet mode, before we do go on to showing you the graphs. So we're obviously now back in the quiet mode. You can see it's still benching, it's still, you know, yomping away there. And the maximum temperature that we've got, this is normal, by the way. This is the way OCCT works. It will drop off and then go back up again. We've not got above 70 degrees in the quiet mode. The pump is on performance mode. I really can't tell any difference audibly between quiet and performance on that. There's obviously a huge difference between the fan profiles, but then, you know, that's kind of when you're going from 1200 RPM up to 2100, 2150 RPM, you are going to have a big difference. But as we can see on the graph, if I bring it up, there is a big difference between the temperatures. I mean, in performance mode, the 280mm radiator on this was outperforming the 360mm radiator on the Fractal Design Kelvin. Now the Kelvin is very quiet though, and the fans don't have any kind of support software or anything like that, so we were running those at 12 volts and they were quite quiet. But then if you have a look at the results on the H110 GT quiet, H110i GT quiet, sorry, you can see there that it's 65.6 that we've got there as an average. Now the good thing, yes, ping, good thing about that average is if you can see that it's cooler than the H105 at 12 volts. It's beating the NZXT Kraken X61 at max. It's not far off the X60 Extreme. Now the X60 Extreme was, you know, with the fans absolutely balls to the wall. But you can see there that even when you go balls to the wall, the X60 Extreme is actually a degree warmer than the Corsair variant. Now you can see it's pretty much the top of our graph. Now it wasn't that long ago that the Neptune was our, you know, one of our favoured coolers because it wasn't too loud, and you know, the 280mm it gave us really good temperatures, and it was our kind of cooler of choice for a little bit. But really, when you kind of go in with just a 0.3 degrees difference, the H110i GT is actually quieter than the Cooler Master. It's better looking, you get the software with it as well, you get the RGB, it ticks a lot of boxes. And I think, you know, this graph is the 4.6 gigahertz test at 1.45 volts that we do as a part of our main review bench rig. If you click on the link, you can go to the Overclock 3D website where we do 4.4 gigahertz testing, 4.2 gigahertz testing. We even do some undervolting to get as lower temperatures as possible to try and pick out, you know, the differences. So there's loads more info on the Overclock 3D website. There's the fitting, you see it in the test rig. There's plenty more there, so make sure that you go and have a look at that. Okay then guys, so you've made it to the conclusion, and first things first, make sure that you go and have a look at all the graphs and everything on the OC3D website. We've tested all three of the fan modes, all the three easy selectable fan modes, so quiet, balance and performance. We've also done it at a range of overclocks as well, so a range of overclocks, a range of voltages, and we've also and we do this with all of our heatsink reviews, we actually do an undervolting test as well. And just to be clear, if you are running a CPU which you think is at stock and you think it's at stock volts, so it's just auto in your BIOS will actually more than likely be overvolting your CPU to run at stock. So your temperatures could quite easily be higher than someone that's manually set theirs, or even have a marginal overclock running as well. With CPU volts, you can often manually set them and that will bring your temperatures down. But if you're running at stock, or even with sometimes a minimal overclock, you can quite often undervolt your CPU as well and still keep stability, which will obviously, the volts are generally where most of your heat's going to come from. So, you know, we've had systems here that we've done in the past that are overclocked with an undervolt. So you just want to put that out there, and we've covered all these bases with our testing. With the H110i GT, and that is a hell of a mouthful for me to keep trying to say it, it's won the Gold Award, and quite rarely, because we don't very often pair the two together, we have given it the Performance Award as well. Now it gets the Gold Award because it's kind of coming in above, or to replace, however you want to put it, the H110. And they've brought their I in, which is the Link software. That's what that stands for. So that basically means that you've now got the square unit that you would be used to seeing with the H100i. You've got the RGB design, or the RGB in the center. The square design is very similar to the H100i GT, but I've got a funny feeling that you may have other units coming in with this silver thing in the not too distant future. Technically, I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to talk about it in the video, but it's coming later, do you know what I mean, on the date. Yeah, you'll see. We've got the Link software, so we've got the USB. There is a minor gripe that I've got there with that USB, is because I've also got the AX1500i in the bottom. Yes, it's overkill, but it's because it's there for when we run multiple graphics card setups, because this is our graphics card test rig. Now the power supply is using one of the USBs, because it's got a connector that goes in, and then the H110i is using the other one. Before, you used to be able to link the power supply into the H100i, and then you only had one connector going down to the motherboard. I don't know whether Corsair are going to be bringing out like a USB interface or something like that. I hope they've got that covered. It's not something that I've seen, because there hasn't been a reviewer's guide or anything like that come through. But I'm hoping that we're not going to need both those USBs, and there'll be something that we can link it into. It's probably already out and I just don't know. So that's a minor gripe, that it's using both my internal USB 2s to be able to run the pair. But the benefits of that are, I can go into the one single piece of software, the Corsair Link software, and when you're in there, you get all of the power supply readouts, both in wattages, out wattages, efficiency, peak power draw, all of that kind of thing. Power supply temperature, power supply fan speed, although this one just hardly ever runs to the point where it's actually got a fan test button just for the, I think we normally end up calling it the anti-RMA button, but anyway. So you can see all of that in there. You can see the cooler temps, you can change the cooler RGB, set yourself some fan profiles up. You have got the easily settable ones in there that you can change as well. You can change the fans independently if you want, but I don't, that's another thing. I think you should be able to just change them together, but with this you have to kind of start setting up profiles and stuff to be able to do it as blocks. But essentially the Link software is brilliant, and to bring it into the 140mm fan category, whereas it wasn't before, because obviously this is a coolant unit and the old ones were Acetec, it's made things a lot easier and quite nice as well. I didn't think it bothered me that much, but it is actually really nice just to be able to go in there and you can see everything. And it's not just the Corsair stuff, it picks up your graphics card, motherboard, temperatures, you know, all of the thermal probes and stuff throughout your rig, it's all in there. So you can play around and monitor everything with that one thing, and it's kind of nice and graphical as well. It's not very like blingy like some of the others are, but this actually works really well. And the reason why I was very specific about the version of Corsair Link that I was using is because with this one I've not actually found any really annoying bugs yet. Depending on your hardware and stuff, you may kind of find little things, but the software has come on leaps and bounds recently. Performance wise, it was epic. Yes, with the performance fan setting, it was insanely loud. But when you, with that, I've already kind of got that in my head, is that's, you know, your weekend benchmarking or fun setting. You're not going to be running that kind of fan profile all the time. Unless you've always got your cans on, or, do you know what I mean, you know, your hearing's not that great because it is quite loud. But I personally think that pretty much everyone out there will see and use this in the quiet mode, because the performance is still brilliant and it's so quiet. I'm sat in the office now and I've got the rig right by the side of me, and the one thing that I can hear at the moment is the studio light bulb buzzing. I can't actually hear this rig at the moment, and yeah, sure, we have got the other fans in the rig running quietly at the moment, but there's still ample airflow in there. And like I said, it's all running lovely. Now obviously if we were to start stressing the rig, the fans come up a little bit, but it doesn't get that much noisier at all. I'm a bit of a silence freak, and I could actually cope with this rig the way it's set up in that quiet mode now, and I think that should kind of like say a great deal really. When we were testing, we had the Asus 980 Matrix in there as well, and we, you know, been warming that up and, you know, running different things. We've done a lot of messing around with it, and it all does just all sit in there so nicely. But anyway, moving away from that, performance is epic, but it's still great even in that quiet mode, and I think the graph that I showed you speaks for itself. But you know, you can go and look at all the other results on the OC3D website. I really like the design on this, the kind of monochrome kind of effect, the fact that the end of the radiator embellishment up here mirrors the one that's on the actual CPU block itself is really nice. I will kind of go as far to say I think this thing on the top, on the side of the radiator, if you did want to mod it, I think if you got a hairdryer and warmed the glue up, I think it would come off really easily, so that you can actually paint it and put it back on if you wanted to kind of start customizing your rig as well. The cables and stuff I've already shown you, you can make them tidy. Don't just chuck it in there and have it going over the top of heat sinks and stuff. Make a little, spend another 5 or 10 minutes and you can have them hidden so that it doesn't hardly look like there's anything in there. But as far as looking nice and tidy is concerned, when we're talking about these hoses, they're probably the nicest hoses that I've seen on an AIO unit to date. I mean, sometimes you get those corrugated plastic ones, sometimes you get the normal rubber ones, sometimes it's just normal plastic ones. This little bit of braid I think fits in perfectly with where the enthusiast market's going with the paracord PSU cables and stuff like that. It fits in lush. It's a nice, feels like, I know it's not cotton, but it feels like a really nice soft cotton paracord. It's brilliant. And it's a really, really nice touch as well. Same with the radiator, and I've moved it again, but the radiator itself, where it's all angular at the edges, and there's not steps down like on the other radios that you see with the end tanks. It's all just kind of nice and symmetrical and simple. It's just a much more pleasing thing to look at, and I think it's this now, I think it's probably the best looking AIO available on the market. The whole kind of package, it just feels its quality, it looks really nice, it doesn't kind of, you know, it's not overboard with anything. Personally for me, it's the one that I would probably end up buying because it does look lush, and with just that white Corsair light, I really like it. Now I know there's a load of you that are going to chip and change and stuff like that, and you'll want it green to fit in with your green rig, your Nvidia system. Dice Hunter on the forums is going to have his one blatantly, he's going to have it bright green until he changes his mind, and then he wants white fans. So then all he's going to have to do is change the RGB setting on this, and then next week it will be something else. He will want an MSI motherboard and it will be black and yellow, and you can just go in and change it then. And that's one of the great things about this, is it can go from rig to rig and you can customize it to go along with them. I mean, what more can you want, really? But Performance Award, Gold Award, absolute no-brainer. It's a brilliant unit. Personally, like I said, just smash it into that quiet fan mode setting. And the other thing is, if you do want white on this, the best thing I can say is most people will put all of the levels right the way to the top for white. But I would call it kind of a warm white. It has got a tiny, tiny little bit of a pink hue to it. If you knock the red down, like just a tiny little bit, you'll see that it takes the edge off of the pink hue and makes the white a bit cooler. Now, if you're a white obsessed freak like me, a cool white, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Don't go too far because it will start to go blue. If you take a little bit of the red off, it will make it a much nicer white, and then it comes out a lot more like that. And that's probably it's something that I've not been able to do with any of the other RGBs, so this is probably one of the best whites I've seen on an RGB unit as well. But for now at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan, thankful that he's not going to have to say H110i GT again, because I filmed this twice, out.